For Board Game Geek, live from SN 2012, we're here with Todd Rowland from AEG, or Aldrich Entertainment Group.
Indeed.
And we are presenting Dominare.
Yes, this is Dominare.
Dominare.
We have our
okay.
faux Italian, pronunciation.
Nice.
Basically, Dominare is the first in the series of Tempest games.
Yeah, so you have this whole world, this theme that's going on throughout these games.
Right, we do. It's a single setting. And in the setting, these various characters show up, and they show up in different games, and the games have different mechanics, but you'll get to know the characters by their personalities. Like, if a character hurts the opponent in one game, he's going to hurt them in another game, just with a slightly different mechanic to fit the game, right?
Gotcha.
So, you'll get to know him, and some characters appear in some games, some characters don't, depends on the theme of it.
Right.
For instance, in this game, just about literally every character is in it. Dominare is about creating a conspiracy to control the city from the shadows. And because of that, you'll be using everyone from the lowest peddler all the way up to the bishops of the church and the highest ranking senators.
Nice.
So just to give you the quick
Yes.
explanation of the game plays over 7 seasons, which are basically rounds.
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning of the game, everybody's going to select, and there's a drafting method, but I'll just get into showing you some. Everybody's going to select some characters to be in their conspiracy. Okay? So the characters come from different groups and different factions. I'm just grabbing a few out here at random.
Is that good?
So for instance, you can see here we have 3 people. They have various traits that will give you influence to put on the board. You'll put your tokens on little spaces to try to control them.
Mm-hmm.
They'll give you gold, and it's used for buying various things. And then they have abilities. Now, on a turn, you have a conspiracy. The turn goes conspiracy phase. That's where you take one of your people in your hand and you put them into your conspiracy.
Yeah.
In season 1, they can only use an ability of that season or lower. So this guy can only use his season 1 ability as an action. He'll never be able to use his 2 and 3. However,
Because he's in that first season.
Because he's in the first season, exactly. Now, if I had already had someone and it was now season 2 and I played him, he could use either his 1 or his 2 on my turn.
Nice.
So you play someone in your conspiracy and everybody around the table puts one more person in their conspiracy. Then you move to the event phase where you flip an event card. The event card will have something that happens. Oh yes, keep it over here. So for instance, it says season 1, scapegoat. Now I'll explain a scapegoat in a minute. That player will choose a player who controls either the Athenaeum or the church, and something happens to them, right? And basically, and it will adjust victory points up and down for the different regions. What you're trying to do is to control the regions. Mm-hmm. And the way you do that is after the event phase, we go into what's called the canvassing phase. Now you look at your people in your conspiracy. In season 1, you only have 1. He gives me 1 influence and 1 gold. So I would get 1 crown,
Mm-hmm.
they're called crowns technically, and I would get to use 1 of my influence points. He's a merchant by his merchant, so he can put his influence anywhere in the merchant area.
Right.
So I'll look at the board and I'll put 1 there, and then it's your turn to put some influence, your turn. If it was season 2, my next person could put some influence down, etc. Once everybody's done all that, you move on to your action 1. I get to take an action off one of my people,
Mm-hmm.
or off an area I control. By controlling an area means you have the most specific zones controlled. So if for instance you had 1 here and I had those 2, I would control the Warrens because I have more spaces controlled. I could also choose to use the ability of that area instead of an action on one of my people.
If you're tied for most, you still get it, or no?
It has to be a clear control. So if we were in this position, no one would control it. It would be it would be a contested spot.
Good to know.
Once we get into multiple seasons, you'll have several people out in your conspiracy. And so, for instance, in this case, they're going to help each other sometimes. So she has the knave trait, not a terribly nice person. This one also has the knave trait. Since they share a trait next to each other, they increase each other's numbers by 1.
Okay.
So she would now get 4 influence and 1 gold, and 3 influence and 3 gold.
So not only are you looking to figure out what actions you're going to necessarily want to play and in what area, because this one is in the third season, you're also looking to try and match these names so that you get that bonus.
The most pure
influence.
power just to put tokens on the board. Because some abilities will put tokens on the board.
Sure.
But mostly it's the basic power that's going to do it. Now the reason we mentioned scapegoat earlier is that this number here is called infamy.
Right.
Basically, the more popular a person is, the more well known in the city that person is, the more likely people are going to see what they're doing, right? If you have the beggar working for you, nobody notices him. He has like a 0.
Right.
But if you have the bishop working, the bishop's like a 5 or 6. So basically, what happens is your infamy is going to go up. And as your infamy increases, this is your exposure, as we call it.
Yes.
As your exposure of your conspiracy increases, you move up. The highest exposed person, in this case we'll assume that we're like this, is called the scapegoat, because they're the most obvious one. So I would be the scapegoat, so I get to go first every turn.
Okay, so that determines player order.
Second. However, most of the events are going to kick the scapegoat because he's the most exposed.
Right, okay.
Now, the other benefit is that on the event, the scapegoat can also adjust up or down those particular victory point areas.
So
you get a little bit of benefit, benefit. Now, at the end of the game is where the real cost comes in, because the scapegoat, you lose victory points based on how exposed you are.
That many victory points?
Not that many. It's a division number.
Right,
No, it's a division number.
Yeah.
But the cool part is that the more powerful a character, the more infamy you get. So you can choose to stay hidden, but you're not going to have as big swingy, big powerful type effects that you can do. And of course, the most powerful effects are going to be the ones you can play later in your conspiracy. As you move through the game, when you get to between season 3 and season 4, you do an agent draft. Everybody gets dealt 10 more agents that you get
And
to
how many
pick
did
3.
you start?
You start with 3.
Start with 3.
Enough to, you get dealt 10, you pick 3.
Okay.
And you keep those 3, you play through season 1, 2, and 3 with them.
Okay.
Then everybody gets dealt another 10, and you actually do a draft. You look at your hand, you take one, pass. Take one, pass. So at that point, after season 3, you might have an idea. I might be able to look at Doug and say, man, Doug is really going after the church pretty hard. I don't think I'm going to be able to stop him there, but I can go after the Senate,
Okay.
And at the end of the game, you look at who controls what. So if you have dominant control of the church, and let's say the points have been going up and down, you would get 8 VP if the church points were there.
Sure.
Then each of these spaces have various bonus points. So by controlling that space, you get 4 by 2.
So these are going to be more contested, of course.
More contested. Now the way you contest is, let's say that you've got 2 influence there, and you can put as much as you want. You can just pile influence.
Sure.
And if I have an ability to place influence in the church, if I have 2 influence, what I can do is I can place mine, which boots you out. Mine doesn't actually stay. It just knocks yours out 1 for 1.
A 1 for 1, yeah.
Now, if you had 2 and I had 3, then it would boot your 2 out, and I'd be left with 1.
Yeah,
so that's how you fight over the spaces.
Very straightforward.
Yes. And so at the end of the game, like I say, you total up your points, you compare your infamy, find out who was the scapegoat, and then ultimately that's the result.
Okay, looks great. Fantastic.
And that's Dominare. That is Dominare. Like I say, there's hundreds of characters to pick from, all with their own abilities, so the replay value is huge.
Fantastic.
On the game.
Okay, so again, Dominare from Alderac Entertainment, and wonderful. Thanks a lot, Doug.
Thank you.
That was great.